How does this drawing become this painting? We're going to tell you in Celebrating Aviation with Mike Machat. This video is going to talk about painting the Moonee Acclaim Type S. This airplane is the world's fastest single-engine piston-powered production aircraft. Has a top speed of 278 miles per hour. It's powered by a 280 horsepower turbocharged Continental TSIO 550 piston engine. And on a record flight that you're going to see in this painting, it flew at an FAA radar-tracked ground speed of 410.8 miles per hour. Well, if this is the world's fastest single-engine piston-powered airplane, here's a book on the world's fastest single-engine jet aircraft. And this is our Specialty Press Book of the Week. We offer these exclusive books to you from Specialty at a 25% discount. Click on the link just below the title block, and you can have this book delivered to your front door. This is a fabulous 10x10 hardbound written by Lieutenant Colonel Doug Barbier, who was an ADC pilot, flew F-16s and 106, and really puts you in the cockpit of this airplane. 226 pages, hundreds of fabulous color and black and white photos. Really, I can't recommend this book highly enough. You will really enjoy it if you're into this airplane. But now let's talk about painting the Moonee Acclaim Type S. On Super Bowl Sunday, January 29th, 2009, Dr. Dave Craddock flew a Moonee Acclaim Type S, the very first one built, on a world record flight from Minneapolis to New Orleans. This painting would show the Moonee, nicknamed the Batmobile, passing over the Minneapolis-St. Paul VOR at 25,000 feet at the start of its record run, 1:30 in the afternoon, and flying at a ground speed of 357 knots. Weather that day was clear with scattered clouds. Step one is the development of the image. I've talked about using models. In this particular case, we used a photo of the Moonee taken by Dr. Craddock from the top of the airport's rotating beacon, looking straight down on the airplane. There it is. The next step was finding an image of Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport using Google Earth from an altitude of 25,000 feet. And there's the image there. Then we just had to marry the airplane with the background, and we had our composition. There's the VOR. You'll see that in the final composition. And last piece of the puzzle was finding a photo of Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport in the wintertime. And this was important to get a feel for the winter impact on the terrain, the snow, the plow patterns on the runways, roads, and taxiways, and just the overall appearance of the airport. In this particular photo, we're looking to the northeast. In the painting, we're going to be looking to the south. And this is much later in the day, but this gives me a good sense of what that area looked like in the wintertime. So this is a montage of the airplane in the background. You see the VOR there at the trailing edge of the left wing root. And this is our final detail drawing, or what we call the final engineering drawing. I want to take a moment and discuss a phenomenon that can really get you in trouble as an aviation artist, and that's the impact of tangents on the airplane in flight. Specifically, what this means is the roadways, runways, the streets, any of the elements from the background touching a corner or intersection on the airplane. And the impact of this is that it just stops the airplane dead. It just completely eliminates all feeling of speed and motion. Here's an example. If you look at the left wing root leading edge, I've drawn in a taxiway that shows you a really good example of how bad a tangent can be. There it is right there. And this even applies to things like the markings on the airplane, the registration numbers. Here I'm showing you how the freeway was adjusted so that I don't have any tangents lining up with the edges of the registration number. Now, yeah, I realize that nobody's going to look at this painting when it's finished and take out a tape measure and say, oh, you know, that freeway was 72 feet further south than what he's showing. Nobody's going to know that. So I call this tweaking the background to make sure that the airplane is in free flight and feels like it's moving at 357 knots. The next step is transferring the drawing to the canvas. I apply charcoal to the reverse side of the tracing paper, and the aircraft in the background are transferred separately, and you'll see why in a moment. So here's the airplane on my drawing board. It's flipped over, and I'm about to put the charcoal on the reverse side. You see the pencils there and all my straight edges and French curves. And I do the same process for the background, 2 separate drawings. We start with the proverbial blank canvas. And there's the airplane taped precisely into position. Now you can see the charcoal line on the reverse side of the tissue. I use a 2H pencil, and I literally draw over the top of the master drawing. And that leaves a line on the canvas that looks like this. Use the same process for the background. And there's the finished line drawing on the canvas ready to paint. I should add, I've used a kneaded eraser to remove some of the charcoal granules and just make sure it's a nice, clean, prepared surface. Step 3 is creating the underpainting or first color. I call this the roadmap or the primer coat, if you will. The aircraft and background, again, are painted separately. So here's the canvas on the easel in my studio. I have a reference photo up there, and I'm about to paint the beginning of the airplane underpainting. This is a look at the tabaret. It's a limited palette at this stage, but I have the colors for the airplane mixed down, and brushes and straight edge are ready to go. I should mention, for health reasons, I use as many synthetic materials as possible. You see there terpenoid, which is a turpentine substitute, and liquin, which is an artificial medium. And again, this is used for health purposes. So here's the very beginning of the painting. You can see the grain of the canvas. I'm applying just raw color and starting at the edges and getting everything nice and clean and starting to map out what the airplane's going to look like. Here's the right wing completed and the horizontal stabilizers finished in the first color. And there's the airplane with the finished underpainting. Very flat, very dry looking, just the very beginnings of the process. We're going to do the same thing for the background. I'm putting in the runways and roadways. I've indicated the clouds. The clouds are designed into the composition to point your eye to the airplane at all times. If you notice, every corner of the painting has an element that is pointing your eye to the center of the painting. And now we're starting to develop the background. And the last step is painting final color. And this is the most complicated part because you're putting in layers of color to develop the final art. Background is developed in detail, and it's balanced to the airplane to create the feeling of atmospheric perspective from an altitude of 25,000 feet. So here I am working on the clouds, and you can see the composition is starting to look more like the airplane at altitude looking down on the snowscape. Here's the scene. This is the painting at about 50 to 60% complete. And now we're going to start the process of really fine-tuning the airplane and establishing the distance. Now you can see it coming together. Detail is in the background, but again, it's going to be kept very subtle. If you look at the upper left, all the detail is there on the 2 terminals at the airport. Airplanes are at the gate, everything you need to see. But again, that's going to be reduced in intensity way, way back. Here's a detail study showing the development of the horizontal stabilizer from first flat color to finished artwork. This is just a good example of the process for just one part of the airplane. This is a cool gray, which is going to be the undercoat. The only place you're going to see this color is in the stamped reinforcements in the elevator. There's the final color at about 50%. And here is the final painting. I should also mention that to invoke a feeling of speed, I keep the leading edges razor sharp with just a very faint glow, making sure that the background isn't touching the leading edge. And the trailing edges are blurred, and then that makes your eye move the airplane forward. For final detailing, I use a double or triple aught sable brush to paint the upper edge, in this case, the baggage door, the fine line detail. The canvas is turned 90 degrees so that all my lines can be painted horizontally. It's a lot easier to do it that way than to be scrunched over trying to paint vertical lines. So I'm always rotating the canvas around. And here we are pretty close to finish. This is about 90%. And here's a good example of really avoiding tangents. This particular area with all these runway intersections and the left wingtip could be lethal if you didn't do it right. But you notice that the trailing edge of the wingtip, the static discharge wicks, the strobe light, all are aligned so that they're not touching any part of the taxiways or runways below. And the title was the highly acclaimed Batmobile. There's the finished painting. I'll show you a close-up of the airplane. Really a beautiful machine. You can see where the airplane got its nickname. And there you have it, the story of how a painting is created from scratch. Thank you for Celebrating Aviation with Mike Machat. As always, special thanks to the wonderful people that made this project possible. The late Dr. Dave Craddock and his wonderful family, Dr. David Lunt, who is the former president of the Flying Dentists Association. This is a dedicated group of doctors who donate their skills, aircraft, and flight time, serving the dental needs of impoverished nations in Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. Just a great, great group of folks. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And until next time, take care.